Hi, good evening. I'm here again. I'm just going to read you from page 20 to page 30 today from Becoming the Oracle. And without further ado, I'll begin. Here we go. When the offerings were complete and the lamps were lit in the cave and all the spells and incantations were spoken for invocation, they set about collecting wood and kindling to light a fire outside the mouth of the cave. They brought with them magical herbs and resins of holy incense, which they threw into the leaping flames. They created it by the holy Delphi. That's a misspell. They created and lit it by the holy Delphic flame. They danced in a circle, inhaling the beautiful scents of frankincense, myrrh, and other essential oils, such as rose, rosemary, thyme, geranium, and lavender. The sacred fire leapt higher as they chanted and were engulfed in their ecstatic dance. Next, they threw dried rose petals and written spells into the flames to evoke the Sibyl. O wisest one of all the oracles, great Sibyl, you are the first and the original, Goddess Gaia's oracle and forebearer of us all. We beseech you to come to us today so that we can know your wisdom and ancient secrets. Unravel your mysteries to us and our Queen, as we are forever your servants. A strange wind blew around the fire, making it crackle and swirl, which then began to take form and descended over Ariadne until she was covered in the swirling, spark-filled smoke. The girls looked on in awe as the spirit of the Sibyl fused with her body. Ariadne cried out as the spirit of the Sibyl possessed her. Her whole body shape-shifted and shook violently, transforming into that of another. Her green eyes became brown, her hair darkened to raven, and her lips to red. She began to speak in a tongue that no one could understand, but as they listened, they began to comprehend. It was a message of warning and foreboding. That they were the chosen few, the spiritual descendants of the Sibyl, and she feared for her children's welfare and their lives. There was no time to waste. The time was now. The Sibyl did something she had never done before and grew her spirit until it possessed them all. The transformation was complete. They all shape-shifted and danced as clones, all with the same face and speaking in the same tongue. Faster and faster they moved. The seed of their cult was fighting for survival, and any one of them now had the internal flame to rekindle it at any time. At the climax of the ritual, the sun came up over the distant horizon, which threw all the girls violently to the ground, as the Sibyl's spirit left their spent bodies and retreated back inside the sacred cave for yet another year. She remained a prisoner of the dark and the night, and now as a sister of Hades forever. Exhausted, the girls lay panting on the ground. Some of them were even unconscious. Slowly they came to their senses and gathered themselves together, killing the dying embers of the holy fire by smothering it with loose earth as they chanted a gentle mantra to Mother Gaia, thanking her for her blessings that they had received the night before. Come, sweet ones, let us depart from our mother's womb, said Ariadne, leading the descent. The breaking sunrise warming their tired faces and exhausted bodies. A strange change had occurred in all of them, as if a rite of passage or initiation had taken place. They all felt it, and soon realized as they walked silently down the mountainside that they had all just acquired a new gift from the goddess, the gift of telepathy. The communication between each other was as if they were of one mind, that of their hive. They spoke silently in the Sibyllian language, knowing that they were one soul, the Sibyl herself. She had given them an enormous task, that they were responsible for holding up the universe, not like Atlas with sheer strength, but as guardians of the omphalos, the navel of the world. The navel of the world, not only the centre of the universe, but also energetically the sacral energy centre of the planet. A site where imagination, creativity, and where your being is established to know thyself. Light the flames of knowing in the seekers, she had commanded them. My oracles are like Olympic torches that must never extinguish, but light others to continue the journey with the eternal flame in their hearts. Every year in November, when the god Dionysus was resurrected, 14 young girls, novices from Delphi, as well as some selected village girls, would be led in their processions and ceremonies by a pipe-playing boy, to which they would dance to his hypnotic tune. The oracle would also teach these girls tutorials in basic self-awareness techniques and the secrets of how the rites should be performed. These were female followers of Dionysus known as Maenads, the name coming from the word mania, as they used to use alcohol to whip themselves into a frenzy. The novices also partook in these highly secret rites. All the girls partaking in this celebration always enjoyed it so much. It was the highlight of their year and much anticipated. It allowed them a time of merriment to forget their responsibilities and enjoy wine, drunkenness, and some fun. Although too much overindulgence sometimes occurred, and unconscious girls had to be nurtured for a few days afterwards by the temple priestesses who frowned on their excess behaviour, Dionysus was represented by the pipe-playing boy, and their rites were secret sexual fertility rites that used forms of masturbation and climax to germinate the seeds of ideas and release the tensions of the world, as well as the sacrifice of live wild animals, which they caught, skinned with their bare hands and ate them alive, capturing their life force energy before it ascended into the heavens. Athena used to envy the young girls that joined them from the villages, their carefree ways and normal lives. She wished she could follow them out of the gates when they left at the end of their stay with them. The weight and burden of the world's responsibilities sometimes weighed so heavy on their young shoulders, but that was their destiny and they were resigned to it. The oracle training grew even harder. At a very young age, they had learnt the lessons in magic and manifesting. Athena often mused of manifesting that which was not her destiny, especially when it came to imagining men. Her secret Adonis, so perfect that he must have been a demigod. He was muscular and tall, dark, long, curly hair, and always made her feel safe. He was a warrior and a king, and as for a real man, she had never really had any contact, only soldiers and marble statues that lined the colonnades on the way up to the temple of Apollo. Maybe it was he, Apollo, who she fancied from afar, a Greek god, handsome, beautiful, and always so alluring in his heavenly, out-of-reach kind of way. But a girl can dream, can't she? The trainee oracles were hidden in their quarters and walls of the sanctuary when the public came to Delphi. No one was allowed to gaze upon any of them. Only the high priestesses who raised them as wet nurses and mothers since their first birthdays. None of them remembered their birth mothers, who were never allowed to see their daughters ever again. None of them would witness what beautiful, fine young women they had become. Athena's dreams were becoming more and more lucid by the day. Maybe her training was having an effect, but her channel was definitely not picking up what the high priestesses would have approved of. One night, she was not sure if she had been awake or asleep. It was hot. She awoke and turned over. A man, that man, the one in her daydreams, was standing in the doorway. She wanted to cry out and scream, but no sound came out. Her whole body was paralysed, her breathing heavy. What was he doing here? Had her conjuring skills worked so well that she'd manifested him out of thin air? He was devilishly handsome, his strong jawline, beautiful olive skin, and dark, power-hungry eyes. He stood silently over to the bed. He strode silently over to the bed and pulled the covers away from her naked body and stared at her so deeply that she feared his gaze would penetrate right through her. She then awoke, gasping for air as if she were drowning. "Athena, are you all right, my sister?" screamed Olifera. "I thought I saw a man in here, but I must be dreaming." It had been an unnerving experience. She wasn't sure if it was safe to tell the high priestesses. No, she decided against it. It was probably just teenage fantasy on overdrive. But she couldn't get the image out of her mind. The perfection of his body, those steely eyes which had devoured her whole body in just one gaze, and secretly she had liked it, even though she had only dared to admit that to herself. Strange stirrings occurred deep within her. When she replayed it in her mind over and over, she was obsessed with an imaginary lover who did not exist. She wondered what the punishment was for impure thoughts. Wouldn't be good, whatever it was. As time went on, she had several such lucid dreams, but she always awoke just as he pulled the covers from her body. Secretly, she wanted him to kiss her, touch her, inside her sacred cave. It had a yearning for him that every day that went by became stronger and stronger. One day, Ariadne called her aside. "My dearest one, let us take a walk a while, as there is something we should discuss." She led Athena up through the pine forest within the sanctuary to a rocky knoll where a huge boulder rested, weightily jutting out over the winding path below. It was said that it was the place that the Sibyl had prophesied from in Delphi before the temples had been built. They sat down on the megalith, dangling their legs over the edge, looking like carefree children playing in the woods. "My beautiful Athena, you are heir to my tripod throne, sister. I want to spend some time one-to-one alone with you, as I'm worried about your dreams, dear one." "You know of my dreams?" Athena was startled, although realised that Ariadne knew everything there was to know. Why wouldn't she know about her dreams? I just wish you to know that they are just born of longing and fantasy. They are temptations to tempt you away from your true destiny. However, you will be an oracle like no other before you, and rules will be broken. You are here in sacrifice and service to Greece and the whole world. That is more important than any pleasure of the flesh or romantic love of the heart. We were not chosen for that. Don't worry, in time these dreams will fade away. But Ariadne, what if I don't want them to? I feel like I'm in love with a ghost and I cannot shake him off. Be strong, dear sister. It is sent to test you on your quest. Your destiny is written by the gods. Do not take that lightly. The king was quietly panicking. A fear born not out of things he knew, but out of things that he did not. The marauders were closing in. Reports had come from all his outposts. 2 of his sons had already died in battles, defending a couple of strategic outposts, and the worrying thing was that they were winning battles ever closer to Athens. He didn't know when they would launch their attack and final push to crush and conquer. But he needed to know, and he needed clarity. "Make forth my boat," he ordered. I must get to Delphi by sunset to consult with the oracle. It was the only way. Back in Delphi, word arrived the king was coming. Ariadne brushed her long golden tresses and tuned in. She saw him in her dreams and visions and knew the severity of the unfolding situation long before the message ever came. Her third eye pulsed. Vivid colours and visions swirled in her mind's eye. Ariadne quickly bathed and performed her ablutions in the Castilian spring, where the magical water nymphs lived. She called on their favour to open her channel of prophecy. I, the Delphic oracle, call upon all the water spirits living and residing in this holy spring to cleanse my body from all manner of negativity and psychic blocks. Open my energy field to become so shining and pure that I may commune as one with the gods and become the mouthpiece of their expression. She then chanted mantras to raise her vibration to that in a trance-like state. She dropped into the empty abyss of nothingness in her mind that held the answers to everything. Her eyes glazed over, as if possessed by some unseen entity engulfing her being as a vehicle of truth. She dressed quickly in her shrouding robe and veil and ran quickly from the spring to her house and then out into the gardens, calling to the guard-keeper, "Take me to the tripod now." She made her way to the temple via the side entrance ramp, as if sleepwalking in a trance-like state. She then chanted 108 times a secret mantra and drank the holy water poured in from the sacred spring through lion-headed spouted pipes. She filled a consecrated chalice and drank the holy water, a source of divine inspiration, and chewed on laurel leaves to heighten her trance. Athena watched quizzically, half hiding behind a pillar in the shadows so as not to be seen, wondering what was all the fuss about. She had not awakened yet, as the high priestess called it. Her intuition was not honed, and she had not yet mastered the art of fine mind tuning to other realms. What would that be like, she thought. The priestesses had taught them that there were only two ways to enlightenment, knowledge and suffering. She hadn't quite grasped that notion yet, and hoped it would come before it was her turn as Pythia. Or there had been stories about those without the gift being sacrificed to the gods of the underworld as a punishment. Suffering didn't sound much like a pleasant option either. She admired Ariadne. She had the gift, a gift so tangible you could almost taste it. It was like an air, a grace, an all-knowing, all-seeing. She saw visions that would appear in front of her, which she could only see, and her prophecies were always right. Dignitaries, lords, landowners, the mighty and the low, from far and wide, sought her out for her wise counsel. Husbands sought her to find out their wives' infidelities. The law courts sought her judgment on criminal matters, and now the king himself sought her wisdom on a matter of national security, of which Athena was blissfully unaware. The royal barge moored silently at the base of Mount Parnassus. An entourage waited at the jetty with soldiers and horses for the king. It would take a good hour ride uphill to reach the temple of Athena, where he would first stop, as it was customary. Everyone visiting the oracle, whether pauper or king, had to visit the temple of Athena and the tholos to say prayers to the gods and bless their offerings before lodging them with the treasury. A priestess welcomed him and washed his hands and feet with water from the Castilian spring, as well as anointing him with a holy essential oil that had been personally blended and blessed in the temples of Apollo by the oracle herself. Lastly, she crowned him with a laurel leaf crown, a special symbol of Delphi, and a special honouring of the king himself. He then left the Athenian temple and made his way upwards towards the pine-fringed sacred way, followed closely by his guards and the courtiers, and a long procession of servants who carried all the offerings ever uphill in the searing heat. Next stop was the treasury, where all the gifts and offerings were stored. Vases full of wine, golden trinkets, as well as banquets of food to honour and appease the gods, as well as a large number of livestock for sacrifices, hoping they would look favourably on him and his endeavours. As he approached the temple of Apollo via the sacred way, they passed the avenue adorned with marble and bronze life-size statues, which even included a life-size charioteer complete with a chariot and 4 horses, all made in bronze with gold and silver gilding. It was the most glorious sight. All these gifts were from previous supplicants of the oracle. The gatekeeper stopped him at the entrance, as was customary, and asked him the nature of his visit. The king responded, "I have a question for the oracle." The gatekeeper stepped aside and let him through to the sacrificial altar, where a priestess foretold whether his oxen sacrifice was acceptable to the gods, which it was. It was then slain by the king himself, whilst the priestess muttered prayers to the gods and handed it over to his soldiers to skin and separate the meat from the bones. The meat being offered as a sacred food for the people, and the bones to be burnt, their fumes appeasing to the gods. He was then led up to the base of the ramp, which led upwards through a large door hung between 2 of the stone pillars, leading into the antechamber, where he was ceremonially washed his hands and feet and face for a second time, as the cleansing rituals were very important. To visit the oracle, you had to come with a pure, clean spirit and body. As his sacrifice had been accepted, he was accepted inside the temple. It was dark inside, lit only by a sacred flame and many oil lamps, as well as the large incense bowls that billowed thick smoke throughout. At the end of the pillared temple chamber was a curtained door that led to the oracle cave beyond. The old priestess watched Ariadne closely. As soon as she witnessed the laurel sprig in her hand start to quiver, she knew it was time to usher in the next supplicant. The king was called forward and made his way to the darkened cave. Only oil lamps lit the space, creating dancing shadows on the walls. Ahead of him, a sheer curtain, where the shimmering silhouette of the oracle herself sat high upon her tripod throne. She chanted incoherently in an unfamiliar tongue. A strange vapour hung heavy in the air, the smoke arising directly below her, which mixed with the holy incense. She inhaled deeply 3 times between her incessant chanting. And I'm going to leave it there till tomorrow and be reading some more what Ariadne is going to tell the king. So, yes. Hope you're enjoying. Sending you much love from the Isle of Wight anyway, and I'm really enjoying reading the book and editing as I go. So yes, see you all again tomorrow. Take care and much love. Take care. Bye.